I am frequently asked by people moving into the area that have never lived in a coastal state before, like Florida, what about the hurricanes? And is one area better than another? And what about the flooding? Stay tuned because I've got the answers to those questions, and we'll break down what types of flood insurance will protect a property in the event it's flooded, and what you need to do to stay prepared for a storm. Even if you live here now and have experienced hurricanes and storms, this video is a great reminder for you too. If you're watching this week, you may have already seen that it is officially Florida Hurricane Preparedness Week, which runs from May 3rd through the 9th. And that means June 1st, and the start of hurricane season is just around the corner. Hey, and welcome back to Great Living in Tampa Bay. I'm Cara Bendeck, local resident and a real estate agent here to help you with all your real estate needs. Please feel free to reach out to me at the number on your screen and connect with me on Instagram. If you are considering moving to the Tampa Bay area, just know that we're not only about hurricanes and storms. You will experience the vast majority of days in Tampa Bay with gorgeous sunshine and clear skies, and just know that there are many years that we have seen absolutely no hurricanes or major storms. Now, I'm certainly not a licensed insurance agent, and I'm only speaking from the experience as a Floridian homeowner and real estate agent. As we get into the hurricane and flood insurance topic, I could talk about storm shutters and generator fuel, and all those things do matter, but today I want to focus more on flood insurance because I think it's very misunderstood by many homeowners and carry with it some surprises. In the wake of both Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton in the fall of 2024, Pinellas County and all of the Tampa Bay homeowners got a crash course in what flood insurance actually covers and what it doesn't. And a lot of people learned some really painful lessons. So today, we're going to break down what you need to know to protect a home before a storm and give some facts to those thinking about moving to Florida. Let's take, for example, the last two big storms that hit the Tampa Bay area, Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, two back-to-back storms within a couple weeks of each other that created massive property damage. After Hurricane Helene hit in September of 2024, more than 22,000 flood insurance claims were filed just in Pinellas County. That was 40% of all National Flood Insurance Program claims filed for that storm nationwide. And let that sink in. One county, and that's 40%. And then Milton came 2 weeks later and added another 2,000 or more flood claims in Pinellas on top of that. By the time all it was said and done, the survey found that 40,000 buildings in Pinellas County were damaged by floodwaters. And here's where it gets really sobering. 40,000 buildings flooded, but only around 24,000 flood insurance claims were filed. So that means somewhere around 16,000 or more properties had flood damage with no flood insurance coverage at all. That is not a small number. Those are real people left holding the bag on tens of thousands of dollars in repairs out of pocket. And for context, the previous record for NFIP claims in Pinellas was just under 2,000 claims after Hurricane Idalia in 2023. Helene blew that record out of the water by more than 10 times. So why were so many people uninsured, and what can a homeowner do to make sure they're not in that situation? I'll explain now. If you get anything out of this video, remember this one fact. Your standard homeowner's insurance policy does not cover flood damage. I know, it feels like it should. You pay your premiums, you have this big policy, but flooding, rising water from outside your home, is specifically excluded. It's not a loophole, it's not buried in fine print, it's just how the product is designed. A homeowner's policy covers things like wind, damage, fire, and water from inside your house, like a burst pipe. But the moment water starts coming in from the ground, a storm surge, or an overflowing street, that's a flood, and your regular policy won't touch it. This is a misconception so common that researchers track it. Studies show that a significant portion of homeowners believe their home insurance covers flooding. And then there are the homeowners who do not have a mortgage who decide not to pay for flood insurance, taking the risk of their home being flooded. You may also be asking why some homeowners are not required to carry flood insurance on their properties. There are two basic answers to this question. If your home has no mortgage, you are not required to have a flood policy, even if you're in a high-risk flood zone. The other reason is someone may have a mortgage, but the home is not in a special flood hazard zone, so a flood policy would be optional to a homeowner. So just remember, you need a separate flood insurance policy if one is required, or if you choose to have flood coverage. There are two main ways to get flood insurance in Florida, and that's through the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, which is run by FEMA, or through the private flood insurance market. Let's talk about each. The NFIP is the big one. Most flood policies in the country go through this program. After Helene, over 55,000 NFIP claims were filed statewide in Florida, more than any storm in recent history, surpassing even Hurricane Ian. Here's what you need to know about the NFIP. It covers up to $250,000 of your structure and up to $100,000 of your contents on a residential policy. It does not cover temporary living expenses if you're displaced from your home after a flood, and the NFIP won't pay for a hotel or rental. For a lot of Pinellas homeowners, especially in areas like Island Estates, Sand Key, or anywhere along the water, $250,000 in building coverage may not be enough. Reconstruction costs in Florida have been running about $150 to $250 per square foot, and a 2,000 square foot home could cost $400,000 to rebuild. And if you've only got $250,000 in coverage, that leaves a $150,000 gap that's going to come out of your pocket. There's also been a big shift lately called Risk Rating 2.0, which is FEMA's updated pricing system, which rolled out in 2022. It's designed to price policies based on your actual property's risk, how close you are to the water, your elevation, your home's characteristics, rather than just your flood zone designation. For some properties, premiums went down. For many in coastal areas like ours, they went up significantly. Florida homeowners have seen average premium increases of around 50% under this system. The upside, prices are supposed to reflect your real risk, and the downside is making flood insurance less affordable for some of the people who need it the most. And when people can't afford it, they drop their policies, which is exactly what we don't want. This is the other option, and it's growing fast. Private flood insurance can offer higher coverage limits. That is very important for high-value homes. They also offer coverage for living expenses while you're displaced. Also, they offer faster claims processing in most cases and often more competitive pricing for lower risk properties. After Helene and Milton, Florida's private flood market paid out an estimated $500 million in claims, $300 million from Helene and $200 million from Milton. It's a real and legitimate market, and for many Pinellas homeowners, it deserves a serious look. The best move? Talk to an independent insurance agent who can quote you from both NFIP and private carriers and help you find the right fit for your specific property. But what if you're not in a flood zone? I hear this question a lot too, and I get it. If FEMA hasn't flagged your neighborhood as high risk, it's easy to assume you're fine. But here's the thing. Roughly 40% of NFIP claims come from properties outside designated high-risk flood zones. Helene was a perfect example of this. That storm brought flooding to neighborhoods that had never flooded before. Areas that weren't on anyone's radar suddenly had water in the streets, and homeowners who had no flood coverage because nobody told them they needed it. There's also the issue of outdated flood maps. Many FEMA flood maps are more than 15 years old. They don't reflect current development patterns, sea level changes, or the kind of rainfall events we've been seeing more more frequently. One county, for example, in Broward County down in South Florida, they updated their flood maps for the first time in 40 years and added 88,000 additional properties to high-risk flood zones in one shot. Pinellas County is a peninsula. We are surrounded by water on 3 sides. There is essentially no such thing as a zero risk address here. And as a good rule of thumb, if you'd be devastated financially by your home flooding, you probably need flood insurance, regardless of what zone you're in. Okay, so it's Hurricane Preparedness Week. The season starts June 1st and runs through November 30th, with the peak activity occurring from mid-August through mid-October. What should you actually do to prepare ahead of schedule for a hurricane? Here are the steps I'd recommend. Check if you have flood insurance and what it actually covers. Pull out your policy, call your agent or both. Find out your coverage limits for the structure and contents. Ask specifically, does it cover temporary living expenses and what your deductibles would be. If you don't have flood insurance, get a quote this week. And this part is critical. Most flood insurance policies have a 30-day waiting period before they kick in. That means if a named storm is on its way and you don't have a policy already, it's too late. The time to act is now, not when you're watching the cone on the TV. Number 3, consider whether NFIP limits are enough for your home. If your home is worth more than $250,000 to rebuild, which is a lot of homes in Pinellas County, look at whether you need a private policy, an excess flood policy on top of your NFIP coverage, or to switch to private entirely. Talk to an independent insurance agent who specializes in flood. Not all agents know flood insurance well. Look for someone who can quote multiple carriers, the NFIP and private, and understands Florida's specific rules and FEMA zones. Ask them, what would it actually cost me out of pocket if my home flooded tomorrow? And check FEMA's Flood Map Service Center. You can look up your specific property's flood zone for free at msc.fema.gov. I've got that link in the description box. It's not perfect, but it's a starting point. And one more thing, for those of you still in recovery from Helene or Milton, Pinellas County has waived permit fees for storm-related repairs, and there are programs offering up to $80,000 in homeowner assistance to help residents move out of flood zones and up to $15,000 in disaster relief. Visit recover.pinellas.gov for details. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I'm asked by people moving into Florida if one area is better than another in terms of risk of hurricane or storm risk. The short answer to that question is no. Yes, hurricanes come in from the water, so coastal or waterfront properties are more prone to outside flooding, but flooding and wind damage can strongly affect the inland too, with heavy rain, wind, and sometimes tornadoes as the storm passes through to wherever it's going to finally dissipate, and sometimes that's even in another state. Now, I'm not trying to scare you or make you feel like Florida is a major source or hotspot of these storms that causes frequent panic and uncertainty, but the reality is you learn to calmly prepare and have your action plan in place. In the Tampa Bay area, many will tune into local weatherman Dennis Phillips with ABC Action News because he is famously known for his 7 rules for dealing with and preparing for a hurricane. In fact, rule number 7 of his is by far the most quoted: don't freak out. Floridians know too that as a rule of thumb, you flee from flooding but shelter in place with wind. Knowing rules and the routine of preparing your home and your family's safety will keep you calm and prepared. Another helpful resource is the Florida sales tax holiday in June and August that can help people save money on certain items as they prep for storm season. I'll link the sales tax holiday information in the description box and a link to a website with checklists and recommendations for hurricane prep, along with You can also go to floridadisaster.org, download their guide, Florida Hurricane Guide. It's free. As amazing as it is to live in the Tampa Bay area with its communities, people, waterfront, and neighborhoods, the truth is hurricanes are a reality in living here. So living here means taking our risk seriously. Hurricanes Helene and Milton were a warning. The question isn't if another storm will test us, it's whether we'll be ready when it does. So during this Hurricane Preparedness Week, if you own a home here, pick up the phone and call your insurance agent. Ask about your homeowner's policy and flood coverage. Make sure you actually know what you're protected against. Stock up on necessary items, supplies, food, and water that you may need in the event of a storm or a power outage, and know how to prep your home to safeguard it from high winds and storm damage. Consider storm shutters or plywood or something to cover your windows and doors. And remember too that the store shelves get bare quickly if a storm is headed to the area. I like the Hurricane Preparedness Week because it's a great reminder to stay prepared and aware, keeping everyone on their toes. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe because I regularly post videos about living in the Tampa Bay area, local communities, and real estate tips. I've got a helpful resource for you on what it's like to live in the Tampa Bay area and relocating here. Scan the QR code on your screen and I'll send you a copy. Also, if you'd like to join my newsletter community, scan this QR code to receive my weekly newsletters in your inbox with local market updates and must-see events. It's a great way to get familiar with the Tampa Bay area too. What do you think about the Tampa Bay area? Leave me a comment in the comments section. Give me a like on this video and subscribe to my channel and share this video with a friend. And until next time, friend, remember, it's great living in Tampa Bay.